So in today's video, we are going to be discussing if the Chiefs should draft a corner in the first round of this year's draft. Now, before we get into the video, please consider liking and subscribing, and let's jump right into the video. So the Chiefs' three biggest needs heading into this year's draft are edge rusher, a pass rusher, however you want to put that, a wide receiver, and corner. For me, those are the three biggest needs that the Chiefs need, and I think it's pretty much universally a consensus that those are the three positions that the Chiefs need. However, if you've listened to any of the videos that I have made recently, I've been mainly talking about the Chiefs getting a pass rusher and a wide receiver, and I've never really discussed the Chiefs getting a corner, because for me personally, the cornerback position isn't something that I'm necessarily worried about with this team. The guys that we have now with Justin Reed, Juan Thornhill, L'Jarius Sneed, and Rashad Fitton, it's not that bad of a group on paper for me. Though I can get by with those four guys, because when you look at the defensive line, you upgrade the defensive line and it's going to massively improve the secondary as a whole. And then if you look at the wide receiver position, I think this team is built on offense, and I think that's pretty clear based off of everything that's been done since Patrick Mahomes came here. And you look at the core guys that the Chiefs have, I like the core that they have with Juju, MVS, Travis Kelce, McCole Hardman, but it's always nice to upgrade at wide receiver, especially when you're paying a quarterback that much money, and it's well deserved. Like, I'm never going to argue Patrick Mahomes' contract, but when you're paying that much and investing that much in him, I think you always want to be able to give him weapons and somebody to throw to help him succeed, because you don't want to pay him all that money and him not being able to succeed. And I can understand the argument, oh, you're paying him that much, he has to elevate players, but at the same time, you also have to put guys around him. You can't have a situation where it's Tom Brady in his last year in New England with nobody to throw to, and you expect Mahomes to go out there and compete and win, because you look at what happened to the Patriots. They lost to the Titans, and it wasn't a pretty situation for the Patriots. And that's usually been my argument of why I think the Chiefs have to go with an edge rusher and a wide receiver in the first round of this year's draft. Obviously, edge rusher to improve the pass rush, and then a wide receiver to help Mahomes have more people to throw to on this offense. But there's also another side of this argument. There's also, I think, a viable talking point that the Chiefs could also go for a cornerback in this year's draft in the first round in particular. Now, again, as I said, I don't think the Chiefs need to go after a cornerback in the first round this year, because as I've stated, I think edge and wide receiver are the two biggest positions they need help with. But there's also the argument that the Chiefs offense right now, you look at the wide receiving core that they have, it's not that bad of a group. And I think another point about the wide receivers is that you look at this year's draft, the amount of talent in this year's draft is just absolutely insane, and that's why it's hard for especially me to pass up on some of these wide receiver talents. Because if you have, like, for some reason, Garrett Wilson or Drake London or Chris Olave or Jamison Williams, they drop to the Chiefs, you gotta go for that. You can't just let them pass by. You can't have a situation where you're looking back in 2 years and it's like, well, we didn't draft this guy. But I don't think those guys are falling that far, but I think you get what I'm saying. But then you also have to, like I was saying, you have to look at the Chiefs receiving core now with Juju, MVS, Hardman, and Kelce. It's not that bad of a group. And I think that the argument that some people are making is that, Mahomes, he has to make the talent around him better. He's getting paid all that money. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what talent is around him. I understand that argument completely. But for me personally, we know the skills of Mahomes, like that, his undeniable talent, and he has to be able to elevate and make players better. But I also still believe that you have to surround guys with talent. You can't just expect a quarterback to go out and make every play. But then again, the talent right now on this team isn't necessarily the worst. I think a lot of teams, like the Packers, for example, would die to have this receiving core on their team. So the argument could be made that the receiving core that the Chiefs have right now and the fact that Mahomes is the quarterback, which throughout this entire offseason, nobody's been talking about Mahomes as the quarterback. Everybody's talking about the issues that the Chiefs have at every other position and then forget who the quarterback is. But the argument is that, you have Mahomes, you have a good talent core, maybe upgrade at other positions, because obviously the secondary, as solid of a group as I think it is, the loss of Charvarius Ward is huge for the Chiefs. He was great last year. I think he was a very good player. Like, obviously Charvarius Ward, he earned every penny that he got from San Francisco. Now, were the Chiefs going to pay for that? Never in a million years were they going to pay for that, because that's a lot of money that the 49ers gave Charvarius Ward. Again, every penny earned, but the Chiefs weren't going to pay him. So that losing Charvarius Ward leaves a hole in the Chiefs secondary that they will have to fill in this year's draft eventually, whether it is in the first round, which I don't think they should do, But then again, like I was saying, there's that argument that you could, the receiving core is fairly solid, go after a pass rusher, help improve that secondary, and then maybe if one of these top guys don't turn out to be a corner one, they're still going to be a fairly solid asset to that defense and still a very good player, because there's some guys that are coming out of this year's draft that I wouldn't mind having. The one guy that I love, and I'm kind of cheating here because he's not technically listed as a corner on some sites, but some sites he is listed as a corner. He's basically just an overall really good secondary player, and that's Daxton Hill. Like, I love that guy. I think he's a fantastic player. He reminds me of a lot of L'Jarius Sneed, and I think he would be a great asset and a great player on the Chiefs defense. And then the guy out of Florida, Kyer Elam, I think is how you pronounce his name. I could be wrong on that one, but he's also a good player that seems to be popping up. So if the Chiefs landed those guys, I don't think anybody's going to be upset that they're upgrading the secondary. Like, again, I'm not going to be upset if they go after a pass rusher and secondary in the first round. Like, I'm not going to be upset with that at all. For me personally, the way I view the Chiefs and this Chiefs team is it runs through the offense, and I would prefer them upgrade the offense over any other position on the team. Now, that's excluding the pass rush, because that's inexcusable of how bad it was last year, and that obviously has to get fixed. That obviously has to get upgraded. So that other than pass rush, I think there's an argument to be made that you could upgrade in the first round at any other position at wide receiver or corner. But again, for me personally, should the Chiefs upgrade at corner and draft a corner in the first round? For me, no, I would not do that. But then again, I do see the side and the argument that, hey, Mahomes is the quarterback. He has solid pieces around him. Let's go out and for once, let's have a legitimately great defense. Because, I mean, even the Super Bowl defense wasn't the best. The defense that won the Super Bowl, it kind of just had to survive out there, which it did. It was like a top 10 defense in the NFL after that Titans game that they lost. And then after that, they just rolled and won every game the rest of the season. Like, I'm not downplaying that defense. It was really good. But then it wasn't out of this world great. And so I think that the Chiefs, I could see the argument of wanting to make a legitimately good top of the NFL, top half defense in the NFL, top 10, top 12 defense, so all the pressure isn't on this offense all the time, because this offense has shown that you don't need a top 15 defense to be good. Like, they had one of the worst defenses I've ever seen back in 2018, and I mean, last year the defense wasn't particularly good, and they've made it to an AFC championship game every single year. But I also see the argument, hey, let's go all out on defense, upgrade on the defensive side of the ball, and let's give this offense a little bit of breathing room where they don't feel like they have to go out and throw a 75-yard touchdown every play, or score 50 points every single game. Because I mean, they were winning shootouts in 2018 all the time. I remember that was crazy that year. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs upgrading at any position, the team getting better, I'm not going to be upset. If they do pass rusher first, which I think is the biggest issue that they have to address first. If they do decide to choose between wide receiver and corner, it's not the end of the world for me. It's not. I won't be upset. I won't be at all. Again, I still live through the lens that, hey, this team runs on the offense. It's got to improve. But again, I also understand that Mahomes has solid weapons, and that for once, maybe Patrick Mahomes would love to have a legitimate defense on his team and not have to carry the team every single week. But those are my thoughts on if the Chiefs should draft a corner in the first round of this year's draft. Do you think the Chiefs should draft a corner in the first round this year? Give me your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in the next one.